Hi, welcome to starting off with using Google Slides to create a chemistry digital interactive notebook. If you're here, that means you are interested in learning more about how to make a chemistry digital interactive notebook. So we're starting with super basics here. And the way that we're going to approach this is using Google Slides. Now, before we go too far, just remember, you can always go over and just Google chemistry digital interactive notebooks and all sorts of stuff will come up. You put that in and you're going to see all sorts of wonderful templates and notebook covers and all sorts of interesting things that you can totally investigate. But you'll notice that a lot of them come from Teacher Pay Teachers. So remember that these are here and you can always check them out at any time if you're starting to get overwhelmed and you're thinking, you know what, I just need a template. I just need something to look at for inspiration. There's lots of stuff here. But if you're like, no, using somebody else's notebook is like using someone else's notes, can't really use it until it's mine, well then you're in the right place. So we're going to go back to my Google Drive folder, and the very first thing that you're going to do is go to New, click on that, and then we're going to click on Google Slides. So we are creating a new slide deck because we're going to be working in, Google Slides. So I'm going to call this my acid base notebook because I haven't made an acid base notebook yet and I really need one. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to click out of themes because I want more space to work with. And here's our first critical decision that we need to make, which is, how do I want this set up? Do I want it widescreen? Do I want it more of a portrait view? Completely up to you. So what do I mean here? Well, I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to jaunt down to Page Setup. So here's Page Setup. Now, the default page setup is widescreen, which is 16 by 9, which you absolutely can use. Widescreen is going to be the best view possible if you want to project your notebook on the screen in your classroom, if you have that capability. I personally am a portrait fan. So what does that mean for portrait? Well, portrait means that it's going to be an 8.5 by 11 image in this slide. So in order to get to that 8.5 by 11, I'm going to go to the drop down and then I'm going to go to custom and I'm going to change this to 8.5 times 11 inches. So now it is going to match a piece of paper. So I'm going to hit apply. So now here is the size of my notebook. What's some pros of this? For one, I'm an iPad user, but my brother is a Chromebook user. He's using 8.5 by 11 as well on his Chromebook. So I know that this is going to fit very nicely on an iPad screen or a Chromebook screen. The key thing here is that I can print it out. Now you might say, but I don't ever plan on printing out these notebooks. No, you're right, you might not. But if you did have to print out one sheet of those notebooks, or as an example, or you wanted to make a copy of the notebook for yourself to annotate up and use as a hard copy in class while your students had their digital copies. The other reason why I like having this as 8.5 by 11 is that a lot of my existing chemistry hard copies of my sheets are on pieces of paper. And if I want to take just a worksheet or something and I'm transforming it and I'm inserting it into my notebook later on, now I've got this perfect size that's going to fit one of those pieces of paper that I would have originally used in my class before my digital transformation. Con here, not as good as a widescreen for projecting in class. So that can be a problem to some people. Let's say that this isn't speaking to you at all though. You want a different view. Well, let's go to option 2. So to change this, I'm going to go up to File and I'm going to go back to Page Setup. And now I'm going to go to either the default, which is widescreen, 16 by 9. You totally could use this to set up your notebooks. A lot of notebooks are set up this way. Another way that I have seen people set this up is sometimes they will do a custom, which is 14 by 8.5. And it looks something like this, a little bit smaller, so not as wide. And the other one that I've seen quite a bit when I've looked at different notebooks and I've investigated their page setups is I have seen 13.33 and 7.5. So that looks like this. So to me, not a huge amount of difference between these in terms of the landscape view. Now the pros here, great for projecting in class. Lots of space options for kids to write on. For me though, again, I'm more of a portrait girl. Cons, cannot easily print off and know what I'd call off-screen space. So everything on here, your students are going to be working on all of this space right here. So there's no what I'd call off-screen space. So I don't want this though. I want to go to portrait view. So I'm going to go to File, Page Setup, Custom, and this is going to be 8.5 by 11 inches, and then Apply. So before you go any farther, you should go and look at a bunch of different notebooks and decide which one speaks to you. Because if you watch more of my videos, it's not really going to matter which view you do. Very, very personal choice, and all of the subsequent videos on this channel can be used whether you are doing this in a landscape view or a portrait view. So this was just setting up your initial notebook. Hope this helped.